platoon take his platoon to try and help out 11 platoon.
The Viet Cong, thinking that 11 platoon was alone, moved to surround it.
It was while we were moving in this formation that a large group of approximately 60 to 80 VC were moving to our left and then in preparation to attack the left flank of 11 platoon. 10 platoon then went to ground with the VC crossing to our front. Once we were in the prone position, we then opened fire on these VC and we killed them either outright or the remaining force withdrew.
We then saw more Australians advancing on our right, and we quickly stopped them with our heavy machine gun and mortar attacks.
Stopped by the power of Viet Cong fire, 10 platoon was withdrawn into a defensive line around Smith's headquarters. Escape was now impossible, for Smith had too many wounded. Also, 11 platoon was still cut off, and Harry Smith would not leave them. 11 platoon then faced a new distraction.
The whole time the battle was on, there was the bugler, and I guarantee you talk to anybody that was there, they could remember the bugler, because all through it he blew his callings, or whatever you like to call them, but every now and then he hit a bloody CI note, and it was so off-putting.
Smith then sent Lieutenant Dave Sabin's 12th platoon to help, but enemy fire stopped them too.
We then attacked the second group of Australians on our left, but there were now more foreign troops than we had thought.
Sabin turned north, but came under fire from the Viet Cong attacking the retreating 10 platoon. Ammunition was now very low. Harry Smith urgently radioed Nui Dat for resupply. At Nui Dat, Jackson faced a dilemma. If he sent troops to Long Tan, his base might be overrun, perhaps by 274 Regiment. But the resupply could not wait. At Nui Dat, 2 helicopters loaded ammunition. Then, Lieutenant Sharp was shot dead. Sergeant Bob Buick took command of 11 platoon.
And we're getting to the stage where I'd have to do something, so I put in a fire mission to Maury Stanley as DFO, and I then sent my own grid reference. And Maury Stanley said, "You can't do that." And I explained to him that we were completely surrounded, that Charlie was only 75, 100 metres away, and I'd prefer to go with a big bang than bloody and all this. It sounds quite dramatic now, but that is exactly what happened.
Buick's suicidal request concerned Major Harry Honor at Nui Dat.
A big worry was the location of 11 platoon, who were the ones who had been overrun. I thought that they might still be in the ground, some may be wounded, and we didn't want the artillery anywhere near them.
Intense gunfire that created smoke. There was smoke, steam, fog or mist. One couldn't tell what it was. But it did help me in a way, because I could see flashes of gunfire against this background. It was like a screen, about 200 metres distant. It was like a screen which I could either see or not see flashes of gunfire. And in fact it helped silhouette our own troops and VC who were moving close to me. And that was the only way I had at that time of determining the grid reference at which to open fire.
So anyway, he spoke to me and I said, "We've got to have it, we're getting overrun." And so they sent it in, and it landed about 75 metres in front of us. And came right over the top of us, and that's a big no-no. And I think I requested 5 or 6 repeats, which in fact was a total of in the vicinity of about 30 to 40 rounds of artillery, and it all landed no closer than 50 metres in front of us, and that effectively wiped out our main threat, which was the VC in front of us.
Jackson now faced the total loss of D Company, a potential military and political disaster. He ordered A Company to Long Tan to try to break the Viet Cong attack.
It then started to rain very heavily, and we had communications were extremely bad. We were jammed after we replaced the antenna on our radio that had been shot away again. And we decided when it started to get dark, I said, we've got to do something. I think the platoon strength down at that stage of the game was down to about 12. Now we went out with 28, and there was effectively about 12 of us left. All the rest have been killed and wounded. So there wasn't very much I could do except just get out and run like hell.
The survivors ran west, with Viet Cong bullets smacking past them. They met Sabin's 12 platoon.
Eventually, a company rang up on the radio and said that they were ordering a resupply and that the choppers were about to arrive and that they were going to throw yellow smoke. The penny dropped for me, and I realised that the only way I could get the survivors from 11 back is not by going to meet them, but by throwing yellow smoke in their direction as far as I could, hoping that they would see and come back to the yellow smoke. We knew roughly where 11 platoon would be because to both sides of them we could see enemy movement, and we were being fired at and we were firing upon enemy to the 11 platoon's flanks. So we knew what direction we could expect them to come from. When we threw the yellow smoke, there was an immediate hail of fire into the area where the smoke fell, which we'd thrown 50 yards or so out of our own position. As the 11 platoon group arrived at 12 platoon, they were being followed by the enemy. So we then settled them down and had another little battle with those enemy that were following. Having fought off that assault, we then prepared ourselves to go back to company headquarters.
The ammunition boxes were dropped right into Smith's headquarters. By this time, D Company had few bullets left. Intense fighting resumed. The APCs with A Company were slowed by the flooded river Soi Da Bang. Sabin, meanwhile, bringing in the survivors of 11 platoon, saw the Viet Cong massing to attack Smith's position.
I let the first VC line pass our position, and when the second and third line of VC lined up in the avenues where the machine guns were aligned, I gave the order to open fire. The two machine guns opened fire with all the rifles that I had, and we simply decimated those two lines of VC. The front line, not knowing what had happened, immediately turned around and tried to dash back to where they came from, therefore passing through the two avenues that we had under fire. And I think that whole attack was just massacred on the spot.
11 platoon finally reached Smith's headquarters.
They were haunted men. The looks of horror on their face as they came through. And they had been through a terrible mauling.
We estimated that we were fighting the Australian 6th Battalion, so we wished that our 275 Regiment had attacked sooner than it did. Finally, we located the enemy's headquarters, and many of our troops attacked it.
The coming to position was only around about 100 metres across. There were massive attacks. The firepower was massive. I mean, they obviously lined themselves up, recycled themselves, loaded their machine guns and just came on and fired and fired and fired.
At Nui Dat, all gun batteries, Australian, New Zealand and American, maintained rapid fire at Maury Stanley's chosen targets.
We were shifting gun ammunition through the rain and the muck. Lightning had hit the toilet. Literally blown the thunderbox to pieces, which is a 44-gallon drum. Absolutely terrible weather. And it was these fellows humping this ammunition, quite, almost running with the stuff on their shoulders. And that's about a bag of cement on each shoulder these fellows were carrying.
Last lighters set in early because of the rain and the tree cover, and these pencils of trace are coming at you, thousands and thousands of them, from there and from there and from there, all coming right above the top of the ground. And I go back to what I said about this reverse slope position we're on. They could only fire down to a certain level to skim above the ground as they could see it, and they were, fortunately, were mostly going just above our head.
At D Company, Major Smith saw the Viet Cong moving in behind him. Human wave attacks resumed from his front and from both sides. Unless help came soon, D Company would be wiped out to a man.
The enemy persisted in these large force attacks, and I knew ammunition was getting critical for the third time, and there was no more ammunition to the rear of us. It was then that I realised that we had met a superior force.
Although our forces attacked closely, the artillery became a problem.